gentlemen, Miss Julie Budd.
It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-at, 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 do-at. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is sing. Do-at, 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 do-at. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you've got. What don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-at, 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 do-at. Do-at, 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 do-at. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you've got. Oh, don't mean a thing if it ain't got that sweet. Do-at, 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 do-at. Do-at, 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 do-at. Hey, 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 sweet. Do-at, 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 do-at.
Wow. Well, we just heard the fabulous singing of Julie Budd, who is just an amazing performer. Welcome to Mia's world. Welcome to my world. Welcome to Julie Budd's world, because we have two fabulous guests, one of whom is Julie Budd, singer extraordinaire, putting a little French touch to this today. And we also have a great friend of hers for 58 years, I believe, a composer, an arranger, an amazing musician and a brilliant mind and a brilliant soul, Herb Bernstein. And so Herb and Julie, welcome to Mia's world.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. We've been trying to do this for quite a while. So I know that both of you were born in Brooklyn. We're going to talk about Brooklyn. We're going to talk about singing and big bands and Sinatra and childhoods and stoops. But first, before we do all that, it's a tradition on Mia's World to do a little bit of trivia based on the date, and the date being April 17th. So first we do birthdays of April 17th. So we have J.P. Morgan, born in 1837, the great pianist Arthur Schnabel, born April 17th, 1882, the Spanish ventriloquist Senor Wences, 1896, the actor William Holden, 1918, the broadcaster idol William Holden, Harry Reasoner, Harry Reasoner, 1923, rock and roll producer Don Kirshner, the man with the golden ear who invented bubblegum music, was born today in 1934. Olivia Hussey from Romeo and Juliet. Do we remember that? Yes, 1951. Michael Sembello, the composer from Flashdance with Maniac. I did many Zumbas with that. Actress Jennifer Garner, 1972. And Posh of Spice Girls, Victoria Beckham, 1974. A few little trivial facts in history today on this date. In 1621, Lord Chancellor of England, Francis Bacon, charged with 23 counts of bribery. 1907, Ellis Island, New York, recorded 11,700 immigrants. In 1924, Metro Pictures, Goldwyn, and Louis B. Mayer merged to form MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer. 1964, Ford Mustang was formally introduced. In 1977, Cy Coleman and Michael Stewart's musical I Love My Wife opened at the Ethel Barrymore Theater, ran for 850 performances. In 1978, the Pulitzer Prize was awarded to Carl Sagan for Dragons of Eden. 1982, country music legend Johnny Cash hosts Saturday Night Live. And 1999, Rock for Rainforest concert, Tony Bennett, Elton John, Billy Joel, Charles Aznavour, happened April 17th, 1999. Today's holidays: it's National Cheese Ball Day, it's National Haiku Day, it's Blah 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 Day, it's Ford Mustang Day, Herbalist Day, International Day of Mastering Conversations That Matter, and we're about to have one that's truly going to matter. It's National Banana Day and National Crawfish Day. So in honor of today being International Haiku Day, I wrote a haiku in honor of Julie and Herb. You ready? You know,
Okay.
it's that 575 haiku thing. Radiant duo, Julie Budd and Herb Bernstein, friendship quintessence. That's my haiku for the two of you.
I like
Uh,
that.
And
You know, I feel like I'm ready to take the SAT now.
you might have to.
My granddaughters always say TMI, too much information.
Right. It's probably a lot of detail. Now, here's my rhyming wrap up of the news, and then we'll be talking to Julie Budd and Herb Bernstein. Is that right, Herb, by the way? Bernstein or Bernstein?
That's either one. Bernstein sounds a little more upscale.
Okay.
But Bernstein is fine.
Okay. Here's the rhyming wrap up of the news. That's hard to say. An event that was quite mystic and made us quite humanistic. For a moment in time, it felt quite sublime, making us quite optimistic. A sound of silence that grips, no one eating potato chips, all looking up, nothing interrupting this magical solar eclipse. Princess Harry and Meghan Markle seem not to have lost their sparkle, while William and Kate stay private of late. H&M has stretched more hierarchical. 2 more Netflix shows are planned to magnify their brand. Each project is solo, like Harry's polo. Meghan's lifestyle stuff will expand. And now Sam Bankman-Fried, who has done no one a good deed, his meteoric rise ended up in his demise. He'll have lots of jail time to read. He's making an appeal of his 25-year sentence. For real? He stole $8 billion, not out of goodwill. Don't think he'll get a plea deal. Israel has been attacked. That's not opinion, it's fact. We're all perplexed about what's next. Looks like the cards are stacked. Against the Middle East situation, it's cause for consternation. Let's get rid of the kings, let them play on the swings and have a big celebration. Let's pray for days harmonic, more afternoons symphonic. No more missiles or drones, no more princes and thrones. I might need a gin and tonic. It's National Banana Day, so peel that yellow away. It makes a great bread or pudding instead. Now where is my Chardonnay? That's my signature line about the Chardonnay.
Well, that sounds great.
Let's all meet and have some. Okay. Well, let's start out with Julie Budd and Herb Bernstein, whichever one you prefer. You both grew up in Brooklyn and you both have such amazing credits. I mean, Julie, you started your career at 12. You've signed major recording contracts. You've been on talk shows from Johnny Carson to Ed Sullivan to Carol Burnett. You've toured with, done a million things with Robert Klein, Frank Sinatra. I could go on and on. You've done theater and film and Neil Simon and Joaquin Phoenix, and it goes on. And Herb, you were born in Brooklyn as well. You took violin lessons at 4. You've worked with Leslie Gore and Bob Dylan and Tina Turner. You've arranged everything from Go Away Little Girl to Leaving on a Jet Plane, and you've worked with just about everybody. I guess what I want to say is that you've had a friendship for 58 years. It's amazing to have such a long-lasting friendship or partnership with anyone, romantically, business. Let's start with, how did you two meet? I know it's in the Catskills, so let's hear the story.
Which
Julie,
one?
maybe.
Which one starts?
Julie, go ahead.
Oh, I start?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Sure,
Hello,
whatever.
Hello. What an intro. Thank you, Mia. Thank you. I was going to camp and my sisters were in camp. We were all 3 of us in camp. And I was a terrible camper. I didn't want to go to camp. And I remember my parents took me home midsummer and I went to my aunt's bungalow colony and I finished my summer there. And the next summer, my parents said, well, what are we going to do with her? She doesn't want to go to sleepaway camp and she can't sit in Brooklyn with all her friends are away for the summer and it's hot and she has nothing to do. What are we going to do? So my father said, you know what? Let's go to Tamarack Lodge and we could get some rooms in the hotel and we could have a room and the kids could have a room and, you know, they connect. My older sister, Jill, wanted to go back to camp. My little sister, Susie, she was a little young. She didn't. And I certainly didn't want to go. So they took these hotel rooms and we went to Tamarack. What do you think they did when I got to Tamarack? They put me in camp. Oh God, it wasn't sleepaway, thank God. But I had to go make like an ashtray or something, something like that. You know, it was all of that. And I went to camp And then I found out my cousin actually was up there with me too. And I found out that there was a talent show, an amateur
Aha.
show. It was a talent show. And the truth of the matter is, I owed my entire career to a man by the name of Vic Minow. And Vic Minow was the program director, artistic director, entertainment director. He was also, the tumulter, they used to have a guy up in the Catskills called Lou Goldstein, and he used to do the Simon Says, Well, he was like that. He was like everywhere. He was entertaining. He was an ex-prize fighter, and he was like a really rough guy, but he had a really soft heart. And he used to MC all the shows, and he was the director. And I came in one afternoon and I auditioned for the talent show, and it was all these adults. And I walked into this huge room. I mean, it was enormous. The showrooms, for people who, don't really know what it was like up there, some of the showrooms were 2,000 seats. It was, really, really large venues. And I came in with my Tamarack t-shirt and my hair pulled back and my shorts. And I walked all the way up to the stage, and they all looked at me because they were all, adults. Some of them were sort of pros, they were out there working and stuff. And they all looked at me, and Vic came up to me and he said, "What are you doing here?" in his friendly way. But I loved him. I really did. And I said, "I'm here to win the contest." I didn't say I'm here to be in the contest. I said, I'm here to win the contest. Now you have to understand, my parents didn't know I did this, because my mother would never go to the shows without my father. And my father didn't come up until Friday night, like really, really late after work. So my mother wasn't there. My father wasn't there. I took this all on myself. Vic Minow told me, you have to he heard me sing. And there was a guy who was my first accompanist, Herbie. His name was Milton Lear, and he was fabulous. And I sang "Who Can I Turn To?" and "Moon River." Those are my two songs.
Love it.
And he said to me, "What key do you do it in?" Because I didn't bring any music. So
oh my God.
I know. I was 12. I didn't know. So I said, "Just follow me."
Perfect.
Just follow me. Okay. I mean, I was a diva at 12. And Vic Minow came over to me after I sang, and he said, "You're going to be on the show." And I went, "Oh, great. Oh, great. I'm going to be on." And it was tonight. It was Friday night. He said, "Now listen, there's a guy staying in Homestead." Now, Homestead was a property off the grounds at Tamarack, but it was a beautiful area. And he said, "There's a guy by the name of Herb Bernstein, and he records all these people, Tina Turner, the Four Seasons, all these people, Dusty Springfield and Leslie Gore." He said, "You get him to the show. He's a nice guy. You get him to the show." I said, "Okay." So I waited a little while, because I figured all the husbands come up really late. They don't come up early. So I go down to Homestead, which is almost a mile off the property. And I went there all by myself. Don't ask me where I got the nerve to do all this. But I walked on this country road all by myself. Had no idea where I was going, but I knew it was straight down. So I just went straight down. And there's a big sign that said Homestead. I go inside and I start asking people, "Where is Herb Bernstein?" We're always at the cabin over there, And I go up to the cabin and I knock on the door. And there comes this big man. He looked like he was a tower. Herbie looked so big to me. And I said, "Hello, Mr. Bernstein. I'm going to be in the show tonight. And Vic Minow told me that you should come and see me. And I'd really like you to come and hear me sing." And he looked at me like I was from outer space. And wherever he went, I followed him. He went to
like a shadow.
He went to the paddleball, I was there. He went to tennis, I was there. He went swimming, I was there. And he was swimming, and I went in the pool, and I went, and I was face to face with him, and he said, "Okay, okay, I'll come." Wait, I'll let Herbie tell you. Herbie, are you,
You've continue, Herbie.
but you got to talk into the mic.
Trying to avoid her. You know, she was 12 years old. Honest to God, man, she looked about 8. You know, and I said, just what I need. I was having all these hits. I was really starting to get my own career going, and I needed a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't get rid of her. Finally, out of frustration, I dove into the pool to get away from her. I took like 2 strokes underwater, came up face to face with Julie. I can't tell you, it was too much. I said, Julie, I promise I'll come to the damn show. You know? Please give me a break.
Well, what happened when you heard her sing, Herb? How did you react?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a terrible. It was, you know, amateur night at Tamarack Lodge. Someone played dual violins. One guy played Flight of the Bumblebees on wine glasses. Just the worst crap you ever heard in your life. And then Miss Lou Pisher comes out, and she starts to sing, you know, "Who Can I Turn To When Nobody Needs Me?" I said, "Oh my!" I couldn't believe. Sounded like Edie Gourmet.
Oh
No kitty voice. Unbelievable. Poise like you never saw.
Incredible.
And I mean, I was flabbergasted, and that started things. You know, after the show, I went back and you know, and just told her how. At the time, I was recording Laura Nero. In the city, see recordings, you know, and so anyway, her parents trusted me off with her parents right away, and so she came into the city with me, and I introduced her to Laura Nero, and I mean, it was just
amazing
great stuff. You know, Laura was as sweet as could be to her, and I mean, I can't begin to tell you. I don't remember in sequence, but I know within a month I had a sign to MGM, to William Morris, an agreement to do the Ed Sullivan. Oh, I was recording Merv Griffin. So remember that, Julie?
Yeah.
And I brought Julie to the session. I said, look, I'll do a little politics. I'll introduce you to Merv. You'll sing for him. Yeah. So I brought her to the studio with me, and I introduced her to Merv. And Merv flipped. He put her right on the show.
Amazing.
And we did about 40 Merv Griffin. We didn't even have any arrangements.
Herb, I remember I was young too once, and I watched Merv Griffin, and my whole family was sort of stopped in their tracks watching. Julie, you wanted to say something about what the first thing he said to you?
Do you remember the first thing you said to me when I walked off stage?
I don't remember what I had for lunch. No,
You said to me, you looked at me, and I looked at you, and you said, I have to speak to your parents.
Oh man.
It was like Herbie looked like a deer in the headlights, and I wasn't sure right away if he liked me or didn't like me, because he looked sort of shocked, and he said, I have to speak to your parents. When he said, I have to speak to your parents, I thought it was okay. Now the next day, Herbie told me to meet him in the showroom. He wanted to see what I would sound like on certain types of songs and stuff, so I met him at the piano. My father had just arrived upstate, and he was asking my friends where I was.
Oh boy.
And one little girl goes up to my father, and she says, I know where she is. She's in the showroom with this man. Red. It was like a bull that saw red, you know.
Oh my God.
Down to the showroom, and he's got that look on his face, and I know I'm in trouble. But they got to know each other, and they liked each other. It turned out my grandmother knew Herbie's father. I mean, it was like,
oh my God.
I mean,
Jewish
geography. It was Jewish
geography. It's an incredible story that I never get tired of hearing, because it's stunning. I just wanted to talk about and play something for you about, I always wondered, did you always know you wanted to sing? Obviously you did, but what I want to play something where Julie, you know, picture's worth 1,000 words. So I want to play something where Julie is talking to the Brooklyn Historical Society about what you do in Brooklyn, going stoop to stoop. So here's the video.
And it was great, but I have fabulous memories when I lived on 54th Street. We had just moved in, and I wanted to get to know my neighbors, but I thought, you know, this is a place where I could actualize what I wanted my dream in life to be. I wanted my life in music. I wanted my life in theater. So what I did at the age of 6, I got dressed up, I put on my Yom Kippur clothes, and I was very fancy, and I went from stoop to stoop. Now that is only a phrase you will hear where? In Brooklyn, right, stoop to stoop. And I sang, and of course I charged them. And it was like a nickel or a dime, and I went home, and I thought I really cleaned up that day, and I figured, you know what? I think I have a career here.
And that was Julie talking about Brooklyn and starting her career.
Oh, well, that was, you know what that was? That was the Jewish Hall of Fame. That was
I
the
believe
Jewish
so.
I
Yes,
received an award for that. And you
Yes.
know who gave me that award? A wonderful woman, Letitia James.
Oh man,
She gave
You're
me that
connected.
award.
you are
was,
connected.
yeah, no, she's a lovely, lovely, brilliant woman. And she gave me that award.
Oh my,
Along with my
that's
friend, along with my friend Howard Teach. That was for the Brooklyn Hall of Fame, the Jewish Brooklyn Hall of Fame.
Well, I know that, you know, I guess I want to know, do you think that with your whole careers, both of you, do you always think you'll be like from Brooklyn? You know, like the heritage, the culture, the whole feeling of
Well, I
Brooklyn.
can tell you this.
Part of your
I
blood.
can tell you this. I can tell you that no matter where I go in the world, and if I say to an audience, it could be in France, it could be in Italy, it could be in Israel, it could be in Canada, it doesn't matter. If I say to the audience, welcome everybody, welcome to my show, and thank you for allowing me to be in your country. And I said, listen, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. And they all start cheering. It's the funniest thing. There's this thing about Brooklyn. And
you too, Herb? Herb, you too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, one thing I want to tell you that to me is supersedes everything we're telling you. I met Julie, she was 12, and, you know, I flipped out, of course, and we decided to work together. She liked me, I liked her.
It clicked.
And of course, now we love each other.
but my parents said yes. That was the big thing. And my parents liked Herbie.
Thank goodness for your parents.
That's right.
But the thing I wanted to mention is we never had a contract. Now it's 58 years. We've made millions together, and we have never had a contract. Never had one dispute over money.
Amazing.
In 58 years. We fought over other things, but never money.
Isn't
and
that
all
interesting?
these years, and we're still joined at the hip.
Amazing.
And I think it's sensational. I don't have a better friend in the whole world.
Oh, I started with friendship.
And I feel the same way. But I think because we were both in it for the right reason. Exactly. We were both in it for the music. You see,
passion, the music.
I don't think you could be in show business unless you really love it. It's a hard industry. Herbie and I were lucky. We had each other. We had the same goals. You know, our families sort of meshed together. It was like a family thing, and it really helped. But you have to understand, you need to love what you're doing in this industry because it's very difficult, and it takes a lot out of you. And it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a job of passion. It's a job of passion. And it's a job. It's a job where you have a calling. You know.
Well, speaking of calling, I want to show something else that's a beautiful montage of Julie kind of from childhood dreams to fame. And again, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and maybe a melody is worth a million words. So here's the montage.
I used to sit on the stoop all the time, and all I could think about was music all day long. I just wanted to be in show business.
series and strings of pearls, books and records by the score. There's no girl could ask for more.
I was invited on the show, thrilled of course. It was 8 p.m. Sunday night. Mr. Sullivan introduced me.
Passions, be deep rug upon my floor. There's no more.
Frank Sinatra's office called. I thought I would die. I was so excited.
You know what? They love you. And you know something else? So do I.
They didn't know what to do with me, so what they did was they paired me with all of these famous sort of legend types.
I'm a child of plenty. I'm a child of plenty. I'm a child of plenty.
So now that we saw that amazing time dreaming through the decades of Julie on the steps in Brooklyn to her pairing with people like Ed Sullivan and Frank Sinatra, let's talk about Frank Sinatra, because you have this beautiful album together, Herb and Julie, Remembering Mr. Sinatra. First of all, it's mind-blowing that Frank Sinatra actually, or his office, called you Julie. That must have been insane.
Well, you know what happened? I was at the International Hotel. I was 14 at the time, 14 and a half, 14. It was my first time in Vegas. Now you have to understand that there are child labor laws all over the country. The only place where there are absolutely no child labor laws that I was aware of at the time, or that anybody else was, there could be now, but there wasn't then, was Nevada.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And
Very interesting.
you could work, Harrah's and Lake Tahoe, you could work any of the hotels in Vegas. And I was signed to the International Hotel when I was about 14 and a half. And I was working with Bill Cosby. He had some problems on this show. And as a result, and I'll tell you who I was with during the show was Lionel Hampton, who was one
Oh my gosh.
he was one of
Lovely.
the kindest human beings that I ever worked with. We adored Lionel. And I'll tell you, when I met Bill, I knew I was dealing with someone very talented, very, very bright, but there were problems on the show. And he wound up firing me, and really for no reason at all. He had some crazy reason for firing me, which we never really knew what it was.
Mhm.
And he replaced me with a sensational artist. You could do some research on her. She's a wonderful artist. He replaced me with a fabulous singer by the name of Reddy Hughes. She was signed to his record label, Tetragrammaton, if I recall this correctly. So he got rid of me. And word got out. Oh, I'll tell you what happened. A guy by the name of Davy Victorson and Bob Paluzzi, they were the two guys over at Caesar's Palace.
Uh-huh.
And word got out that Cosby did the wrong thing by me. And they came to see me. They were curious about this kid. And I got great reviews on the show. And they couldn't understand, why would he get a kid who gets stellar reviews and then he fires her? It's weird. So they come to see me and they flipped out. They loved the show. Again, Papa flies in for that weekend and Daddy shows up in between shows. I was doing 2 shows a night at that gig. And Bob Paluzzi and Davy Victorson are in my dressing room talking to Herbie. In walks my father. Here comes more crazy geography. Davy Victorson looks at my father My father looks at Davy Victorson. Now you have to understand, he's like the head of all entertainment for Caesar's Palace Entertainment. It's a huge job. And they embrace each other. Turns out my father was vice president of American Beverage Corporation. But years and years and years and years and years before, when Davy Victorson and my father were both kids, David was managing a bar in Brooklyn. My father was working as a truck driver, delivering soft drinks and sodas and seltzers. They knew each other from Brooklyn.
Unbelievable.
My father used to serve Davy Victorson's restaurant.
How crazy.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And they were friends from like 50 years before the show even started. And they were like hugging each other. And I said, I guess they know each other. Turns out Davy Victorson saw the first show. Daddy was coming to see the second show. I told my father what happened, that Bill had fired me. And Davy and Bob Paluzzi said, I don't want you to worry about it because you're going to come and work for us. And Herbie glowed like a neon light. Herbie was so happy. Herbie felt so vindicated. So I finish out that weekend. I pack up. I go back to New York. Soon after that engagement, I would say it really wasn't that soon after. I would say within maybe 6 months, maybe a little longer even. I came back from school to Herbie's office, and I was there to rehearse with him because we were always working. Always working. We had a CBS contract. We were doing the Jim Nabors show, the Carol Burnett show. We were coming back here. We were doing the Ed Sullivan show. I was living in Brooklyn. I was schlepping back and forth 3 hours on the train every day. I was doing homework. I was going to school. I had a busy life. I was training. You know, I was a serious kid. And the phone rings. And Herbie's running around the office doing a million things. And he says, pick up the phone. And I said, Herbie, the phone. He says, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. And Herb Bernstein's office. And they said, this is Caesar's Palace on the line with Frank Sinatra's office. And I was like this little smart ass kid. And I must have said something like, yeah, and I'm Zazu Pitts, you know? And I said, and they said, what? And I went, I pulled myself together and I said, would you please hold on? I'll please, I'm sure Mr. Bernstein will be very happy to take your call. I put down the phone. I was so nervous. I didn't know where the hold button was. And I run and I said, Herbie, you got to take this call. This is important. And Herbie went and he made the deal with Frank Sinatra and Caesar's Palace.
Oh my God.
And I went in there. I was now 15, my birthday, because my birthday's in May. So I had turned 15. And when I went to work with Frank Sinatra, everybody says I was 16. I wasn't quite 16. I worked with Mr. Sinatra. It was April. My birthday's in May. I wasn't quite 16 yet. And he was great.
Minor detail.
Yeah, no, but he was great to me. And I remember Herbie and I were working on these orchestrations. When you work with Frank Sinatra, you never worked with under 45 pieces.
My God.
It was unbelievable. Now, Herbie and I had full orchestra only because you have to understand the way the industry used to work is if you were working showrooms, large showrooms like we were, they all had huge orchestras. So when you came in with arrangements, it's not like today. You didn't have a trio. You had full orchestra. Now, full orchestra could be 15 men. Full orchestra could be 18 men. They could be 20 men. If you're working symphony, it could be more.
Well, Julie, we just both were in the audience for the tribute to Stephen Eady at Carnegie Hall, and Ted Firth was the conductor, and that was at least 30-piece orchestra, right?
No, that was 40. That was 40.
40. And all the talk shows had big bands then, Merv and
huge. It was huge. But that
Herb, I just want to ask Herb, what did you think when Frank Sinatra's office called?
Well, it was amazing. You're not talking about just some schlep singer. That was Frank Sinatra, and we didn't have, like Julie says, we didn't have arrangements for 40 men. And I remember calling our agent, Lee Salmon. I said, Jesus, we don't have arrangements for that big enough. He says, isn't that what you do?
Yes. Well, Herbie had to orchestrate. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, you'll sleep next month. Get busy and write some damn arrangements.
Unbelievable.
Now, I'll tell you what did happen, which was really interesting. Herbie and I spent a lot of time getting the show right because Mr. Sinatra had some wishes for me that he wanted, and we wanted to naturally fulfill them. He wanted some younger but very musical stuff, so there could be a little bit of a dichotomy, but he really wanted me to stick to the standards. So we had to sort of walk that walk a little bit. When I got to Vegas and we had rehearsal day was the day we were opening. I was listening to these orchestrations for the first time in rehearsal. 2 hours later, I was going to be doing a show. I was a kid that really operated very well under pressure. But
you learned so fast and absorbed so.
Herbie and I worked at the piano very, very diligently. He would say things to me like, because he knew I wasn't going to hear the arrangements until the day of. So he said, this is where the harp comes in. Wait 2 bars. I have a little motif written over here. Don't come right in. So I really had to memorize the map, but I'm talking about, maybe 15, 20 pieces. And I wasn't going to hear it until the day of the show. But when, like I said before, when you love what you do, it's your life. You're diligent about it. So I remember everybody got so nervous. They said, Mr. Sinatra's coming. Mr. Sinatra's coming. And I was coming to the end of my rehearsal. And actually, I didn't think I was going to meet him in rehearsal because I thought his people were just going to run his arrangements. But he wanted probably to meet me, and he wanted to check this out. Right? So I was on stage, and Herbie was rehearsing the last piece that we had. And I turned to my sort of stage left, and I saw somebody wave and blow a kiss. I couldn't see anything because I had lights in my eyes.
Right.
But I could see a figure of a man in the wings. I could see that, but I couldn't see detail. So I figured they're very friendly here in Vegas. I'm going to blow a kiss back. So I blow a kiss back. I finish. I walk off to the wings on that side, and I see this person extending his arms. And I get closer out of the light now, and I can see it's Frank Sinatra. And he gave me a big hug, and he said, whatever you need, you come to me. And that's the way the whole engagement was like that. I mean, it was really.
And it's kind of, it's sweet justice, from your firing. Things happen. I hate to say this trite thing for a reason, but it's like, why do these things happen?
If Bill Cosby didn't fire me, me, I never would have known Frank Sinatra. And wait a minute, the best part of the story is my contract with Caesar's Palace did not end with Frank Sinatra because Bob and Davy did a 3-year contract with me.
Amazing.
And I was going to be there 8 to 16 weeks a year, depending upon how they put me in. And that's where I met Liberace, and I worked with Carol Burnett there, and I worked with Jim Neighbors. And then Jim worked with me there, and he put me, he had a CBS contract, and he got a TV variety show. He put me on 4 of his shows. And when his show, when he didn't do the big variety show anymore, he had a talk show. And then he put me on the talk show, and we became lifelong friends.
That's amazing, Julie. Yeah. I have so much to cram into the next 10, 15 minutes. All right. So talking about Carol Burnett, I just want to show this incredible clip from Carol Burnett. We all love her. And you on that show, stupendous. So here's a little clip of Julie with Carol Burnett, and I'll just let you watch this amazing, amazing video.
Our next guest is a very talented young lady, a seasoned performer, and she's only 16 years old. Please welcome Miss Julie Budd.
How about Remembering Mr. Sinatra, your album? Herb, you collaborated, obviously, orchestrations, arrangements with Julie on Remembering Mr. Sinatra. And of course, as you just explained, it's such an amazing period in your life, meeting him and working with him and being adored by him, obviously. He loved you. I wanted to just play a little bit and you can talk. Maybe we'll sort of fade in and out of the medley you did on the Remembering Mr. Sinatra. It's More Than You Know, The Very Thought of You, and The Nearness of You. That's a beautiful medley that you did. Go ahead, Herb. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, great songs. I'll tell you one little funny story, because for some reason, I was always nervous, you know. These were people I idolized. And I remember working with Harvey Korman on the Mike Douglas show, and he says, doesn't she get nervous? I said, she never gets nervous. I'm always nervous. He says, you know why? She's too young to get nervous. So you know, that made me true. I don't know. She never got nervous. Oh, it's Sinatra. Oh, next week, Jimmy Durante. Oh, you know, George Burns. Oh, hey, no, me. I'm so nervous.
Well, you know what? You know what it is too. You know what it is too. I had no formal training at that time. I was just starting to take my vocal classes. I was just starting to take acting, body movement, music classes, you know, the things that give you your tools as an artist. But I came in as somebody who was just working on natural ability, and Herbie was tutoring me. And that's really, but what's interesting is Remembering Mr. Sinatra was not recorded after I worked with him. It was recorded decades after I worked with him.
Right.
And then decades after I worked with Mr. Sinatra, I started working, my career has been in symphonies and performing arts centers. So my musical business, you know, has been in symphonies. And so I really went from the little kid on TV to the kid in big showrooms. And then I went into sort of these new kinds of showrooms in New York when the big ones didn't exist anymore. And then I graduated back into large orchestras again, where I am now with this world that I work in with symphonies. Now Herbie's writing all the orchestrations for symphonies.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's
a whole
what
different
we do now.
skill set.
Yeah.
Wow. And Julie and Herb, you've been all over the world with symphonies, from
Yes.
Carnegie Hall, Tel Aviv to you name the city, you've been there pretty much.
I remember when Liberace took us to the London Palladium with him.
Wow.
And we worked there. Look, you know, I'm just lucky that this was the only job I ever had. Since I'm 12 years old until the present, you know, and I've always worked, and I've always done what I wanted to do. I lived the life I wanted to live.
Thank God, because you know how Jewish parents can wanted you to be a lawyer or a doctor, and you.
Well, my parents my mother wanted me to be a doctor, and my father wanted me to be a lawyer, you know. But you know, the thing is, they wanted me to be happy. I think they were really worried about my being in show business, to be honest with you. I mean, they allowed me. Look, when I met Herbie, my father thought it was a stage. You know,
Right.
it's a stage. My daughter, she'll stop with this. And he always let me do what I wanted. I was very, very lucky. My parents were sort of bohemian in that way. They were bohemian people. I mean, they did not, although they were traditional in a lot of ways, they were kind of free. I never had a curfew when to go to sleep. They knew I'd go to sleep when I had to. I never had a
trusted
curfew.
you.
Yeah, they did, you know, and they gave me the freedom to find myself. I was very, very lucky in that
Very
respect.
lucky to have parents like that. Incredibly lucky. The two of you are joined at the hip. There's a magnificent piece written by Herb Bernstein that I'm so touched by this. I can't stop listening to it. It's a gorgeous duo, the two of you, as I said in my haiku. It's called When a Piano Plays, and I believe it was played. It was the part of the soundtrack of a film that you were in, Julie, right?
Well, you know, it wasn't part of that soundtrack when they did this sort of mashup on it. And they were putting all the films that I did for Disney. And, you know, we didn't even talk about the contract that I had with Disney. I worked with Disney, which was the most fabulous company in the world to work for. My God. It was some of the most wonderful years of my life was spent working for Disney. I did soundtracks for them and I did a movie for them. And I just adored everything about Disney. And when they did this mashup, they put Herbie's song When a Piano Plays in. But we recorded it and we've done it in the show. And it has been one of the favorites. It's a very unusual piece. I hope the people love this because I adore this piece.
A gorgeous piece, and we're going to hear it right now. When a Piano Plays. Thank you for introducing it and telling us some more information about it. It's When a Piano Plays, Herb Bernstein and Julie Budd, a magnificent duo.
In this lonely room, the girl I used to be is gone, and now I'm left with just a memory. He always made me smile. He brightened all my days, and I recall it all when a piano plays. The world I used to love has disappeared by now, and with it all my dreams that never were somehow. He always was my strength in oh so many ways, and I recall it all when a piano plays. So play, maestro, play, keep it happy. No sad songs for me tonight. I know that now he's with another, but somehow, someway, I'll be alright. So spin your magic web the way you always do, and I will dream my dreams that never do come true. I trade all my tomorrows
for just one yesterday, and all the love we shared comes back to me when a piano plays. No, I can't forget our love when a piano
Okay, now Herb, because of your whole history with Julie of collaborating and being so in sync, it's an extraordinary relationship, friendship, partnership, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's really like a miracle that you bonded, that you met. Actually, Julie, it's a great advertisement for being aggressive, even at 12, to try to get somebody's attention.
She's Jewish. What can I tell you?
There are some Jewish flies on flowers. But
guess.
I just wondered, her, because as a composer, I love asking people who are composers, do you enjoy composing as much as arranging and accompanying? And also, when do you compose? Do you do it in the middle of the night or during the day? Or just tell us a little about how you compose, if you can.
Well, yeah, I do my best work at night. It's because there's not as much distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And during the day, I don't know, I'm involved with ball. See, I used to be a jock way back when I was a kid. And I always loved sports, and I was a pretty good ball player. And so during the day, I don't know, I'm always watching ball games or there's always too many distractions. So at night, things are quiet. And all my friends kid me. They say I'm the only one they can call at 4 a.m. and I'm still up.
Wait, I noticed Julie's also up, because I've seen some emails from Julie at 4 a.m.
I taught her the right way.
Well, I guess it's whenever the muse hits you, right? I mean, but I understand that about when it's quiet and less distraction, right? And
right.
And I think,
I'll tell you something else. When we did more arranging, especially like during the disco era, those were all arrangements. You couldn't go in with 5 pieces and fake it.
right.
They had strings and background singers and horns, and they were all arranged. That was a good era for arrangers. They always needed arrangements, but. I got lucky with something. See, another thing too is when I met Julie, it was a great time. The timing couldn't have been more perfect, because at that time when I met Julie, I had all the entrees into everything, because I had just started having some hits.
Wow.
I had See You in September. I had Go Away Little Girl. I had a thing most people don't know, but we sold about 800,000. A song called Walking My Cat Named Dog.
I just heard that. I just played it. That's an amazing song.
That was Norma Tanega, right? Norma Tanega.
Norma Tanega.
Yeah. And so I was getting lucky. So because of that, when I met Julie, I took her to MGM, and they signed her immediately. I had a dear friend at William Morris. We went to William Morris. They signed her. I was recording Merv Griffin. He signed her. I mean, it was just good timing,
That's amazing. And
who was really great to us? Do you know who was really, really, really great to us? Vince Calandra worked on the Ed Sullivan Show, and Bob Precht was Ed Sullivan's son-in-law. And they really got it with us. I was very lucky. And then, you know, Ed always had to meet the people that were going to be on the show. That was Bob Precht, right, Herbie? Herbie said it was Bob Precht. That's right, Herbie. You're right. It was Bob Precht. And he was Ed's daughter's husband.
I love
And
it.
he said, my father-in-law is going to want to meet you. He lived over at the Delmonico Hotel on 59th and Park. So after school, I brought all my homework and my books. And I went over to the Delmonico to meet Mr. Sullivan. And his wife, Sylvia, answered the door. Sylvia was the nicest woman you could ever want to know. And she said, well, Ed will be out shortly. And I waited in the living room, and he came out and he shook my hand and he welcomed me to the show. I wound up doing 3 Ed Sullivan shows. Listen, nobody did 3 Ed Sullivan shows. It was
Except
like,
Topo Gigio.
Except Topo Gigio. I did that in about a year and a half. And soon after that, he went off the air, you know. I sort of caught him at the tail end. But you
Amazing
can't
time.
imagine what it was to be on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I
You could be
cannot.
walking down the street on Saturday night and nobody would know who you are. And then Sunday, you were walking home from the studio and the whole world. I'll never forget. I was taking the train from Brooklyn with my friend, God bless her, Lee Warren. She lived across the street from me. I know her kids, Debbie and Sandy. And Lee was going into the city and I was going into the city, and I didn't want to take the train by myself. So I used to go with Lee. It was the day after I did the Ed Sullivan Show. It was Monday. I had to go to school the next day. And Lee and I were sitting on the train. I still have these pictures. I can't believe I'm remembering this. And remember the Polaroid Instamatic? Take a picture of the thing, like, remember? And then you put gloss that smelled terrible. The picture, remember that? Okay, well, we were on a train. And this man was taking pictures of me on the train. It was the strangest thing for me. That never happened to me before. This was my first introduction of the audience really knowing who I was. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. And that was right after the Ed Sullivan Show. The power of that show, you just can't imagine. And then I started to know Johnny Carson. And then I started to know, you know, and Johnny Carson loved me. That man put me on the show like every month. I
told you, growing up, we were glued to the TV and I couldn't get over you. It was just like,
I was very lucky. I was very lucky. So
incredible timing. It's just the universe spoke to Herb and Julie. And unfortunately, I have to wrap this up now, but it's just been such a delight to talk to Herb Bernstein and Julie Budd, an incredible duo. Their friendship goes on and on. Both of your birthdays are coming, so happy birthday in advance. Happy Pesach, happy Passover. And just been such a treat to talk to you and listen to your stories.
You're such a doll, Mia. You're such a doll. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, Mia, we'll have to do part 2.
We'll do part 2. But in closing, for now, part 1, I want to close out with one of my very favorite songs that I grew up with watching Peter Pan with Mary Martin that Julie Budd sings, and it just touches my heart so much. It's Never Never Land, music by Jules Stein, lyrics by Adolph Green and Betty Comden. And I feel like I'm in Never Never Land when I hear you, Julie and Herb. So thank you so much for your incredible work, your music, your soul, and your spirit. Thank you for listening to Mia's World.
Thank you. We're so thrilled that you asked us to be part.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Herb.
A real pleasure.
Good night.
I know a place where dreams are born and time is never planned. It's not on any chart. You can find it in your heart. Never, never